everyone, welcome to a new video on the channel. Today we are wrapping up the month of February in my reading journal, and I have to say that February was a really good month for me reading wise. I didn't really notice it at the time, but coming to the end of the month and looking at the stats, I've had a really good month, and that is reflected by some really good reads that I had over the month of February. There were a few downfalls to the month. As usual, there's always going to be a book that you don't quite gel with, or you're not quite getting the point to why something happens in it or something like that. But overall, I had a really good month. I did, however, DNF 3 books, which is not only a staggering amount for 1 month for me. Normally I would only DNF about 1. But also just they keep happening back to back. So 2 of them happened right one after the other. And the other one I did try several times to continue on with through an audiobook, and unfortunately I just didn't like it anymore. So I am of the belief that if you aren't enjoying yourself and you can put the book down and you don't think about it again, then it is time to DNF. And that is what I did with 3 of them. I am also very bad for if I'm not enjoying the book from the first few pages, or there's something that comes up that just makes me feel uncomfortable. I tend to DNF quite quickly, so I wouldn't probably DNF a book that I've put more than 40% into, just because I've spent that time. Hardly ever would I DNF something that far, and I think I've only ever done it with 1 book. So 2 of the books I only read like 10% of, and I was just done with. And then the other I read about 34%, and then just, yeah, wasn't gelling, so I let them go. All 3 of them were also romances. I spent a lot of time reading romance over February, which is kind of in tune with the fact that it was the month of love, but also I just really needed a break from a lot of heavy fantasy. That being said, I read a lot of one series over the month of February, the 𝓤𝓽𝓮𝓮 series. We were only supposed to read Cinder. We read all of them up to the last book. We're currently working through Winter, my friend and I, that we're reading it together. So that is quite a heavy little world as well. So definitely balanced it out with a lot of romances in between. We're going to get into the stats real quick once I've set up everything, but I'm really happy with how everything is looking on this page so far. I'm getting the hang of this new setup. If you're new here, I used to have a page where I would start this out with talking about my favourite read, but considering I put down all my reviews on Goodreads and I would essentially copy some of that review into that page, it just seemed a bit redundant. So this year I decided to nix that idea and just go straight into the stats in these wrap-up videos. Let me know if you're enjoying the change, if you've been around for a while. I certainly am. So I'm just setting up all those boxes as you can see, and we're going to get into the stats now because otherwise I'm probably going to forget it and go off tangent. But overall I read a total of 14 books, and that is the same as January. However, I did read a little bit less. One, I've lost like 3 days of the month, and I would have probably been able to finish another book. And 2, my life was incredibly stressful over February. I'm not going to get into the details, but we did have a family emergency. You would hear me saying that in a few videos that I have made recently. This family emergency is to do with my grandmother. Unfortunately, I'm now looking for her new home. She's going to go into a rest home, unfortunately. So this sort of emergency is going to continue on for a few more months while well, it's not an emergency now, but this new level of work that I need to do to ensure that my grandmother has a nice place that's going to look after her, bless her. She is not able to go home due to professional belief. So that is something that's been really heavy on me, and it has slowed down my reading. Over March, when we go to do that wrap up, it will be really interesting to see how much I even complete, because right now I'm filming this narration on the 6th of March and I've not finished an entire book yet. I've barely kept up with anything, and I don't think I'm going to finish this month's TBR. But for February, I did a pretty good job. So back to the stats, I read a total of 14 books, like I said. Pages read was 4822, so only like 50 pages less than the month before, but my average was higher. It's 4.03. I had 7 romances, 3 fantasy books, and 4 sci-fi. I read a total of 9 adult books, 5 were young adult, 10 physicals, which was amazing to get through that many in 1 month, 4 ebooks, and one of the books I did DNF was an audiobook, but because I didn't finish it, I've marked it down that I didn't read any audiobooks. I started / worked through 5 series, had 6 standalones, and I read 3 arcs. And also, like I said, I DNF'd 3 books. My star ratings, I had 4 5-star ratings, 1 4.5 stars, 4 4 stars, 2 3.5 stars, 3 3 stars, and that was the lowest rating that I gave. As you can see, we're almost finished filling in the little graph. I really like this. It's such a good visual now to have it like this, and I'm so glad that I changed this way. But yeah, the month was pretty good. I really enjoyed some 5-star reads that I had. I actually, like I said, I had 4, and out of them all, most of them were for the 𝓤𝓽𝓮𝓮 series, but a couple that I really did like was The Last Tale of the Flower Bride by 𝓦𝓱𝓮𝓼. This was her adult debut. It's a gothic horror, which is so not my alley normally, but it was so well done that I couldn't stop reading it, even though it was quite shocking for me. Yeah, it was just such a addictive sort of world to read about, and the whole toxic way the friendship worked between the characters. And whilst I did guess the twist in the end, it was so well done. I just can't stop thinking about it. I actually went and bought a physical copy of it for a trophy on my shelf because I loved it that much, and that's why it is my most favourite read of February. My least favourite read was an arc called Missing Connection. Now, the author does warn in the beginning of the book. I wish this was in the synopsis so you can make the decision whether or not you want to sign up for these things. But she does make a point where you can sort of guess, you can create how you want the world to go in your head, kind of like a movie. That didn't gel with me. So the fact that the connection, it was a telepathic connection, wasn't expressed why it happened, the foundation of why it would work some days and not on other points and all that stuff, it was missing. And so unfortunately it was a missing point for me. However, I did give it 3 stars just because I feel like I wasn't the right reader for it, so I don't like things not explained to me. And it was pretty okay in between other things. I also think if it wasn't a novella and had more time to develop, it would be much better than what it is right now. But overall, that was the lowest book, and I gave it 3 stars, so not too bad. The 3 books that I DNF'd, however, were one was a historical romance. I just didn't gel with the way that they set up the world. They were trying to be a bit like Evie Dunmore, and it didn't work. The next one was By the Book by Jasmine Guillory. I think that was one of the books that I wanted to have on my TBR and complete. I DNF'd it because I just didn't gel with the character. It was really annoying. And The Donut Trap by Julie Chu. I read that one as an audiobook, and again, annoying characters, very superficial, and it's just not for me. So we're already on to the day's read pixel. If you're new here, this is where I jot down each day what I've read. You can see on the key on the right side that the purple is 1 book, the pinky coral colour is 2 books that I read in that day, the teal is 3 or more, and white is did not read that day. So I think I did a really good job over the month. I was quite consistent, and there was quite a few teals. I was really trying to keep up with everything, all the book reads. Flipping into my long-term collection now. I didn't really have anything else to finish in that book. We are going to do a flip through, the first quarter flip through this month, so you'll get to see how things are looking there, but we're just going to fill in those stats. I forgot to write down what books I bought over the month of February, so I can't fill that in until I figure it out. I'm trying really hard over March to jot that down. I've already started. And I had already ticked off my arcs on this page. It's just sort of going through and figuring out what hadn't I done. I've made a point of leaving this book now until the end of the month, so there's actually stuff to fill in on camera. I don't really touch it often, I don't really need to. However, I do love the series tracker. There has been an issue though, with when I finished off a series. I finished off the 𝓤𝓽𝓮𝓵 I can't talk today, trilogy, and you can see that I've got a purple box and then pink. The purple was just too dark for the paper. This is a really thick, thin paper, so I've changed to the pink, and that will represent that I've completed a series. That was pretty much all I had to add on this page. I'm just checking to see if I've missed one, and I had. It's the Bromance Book Club Book 2. We read that in February, and it was not one of my favourites, actually. Orange TBR, again, I was just running through trying to find it. I was too zoomed in for you to see the whole amount that I filled in, but I had already come in a couple of times during the month. Like I said, going to make sure that I don't do that anymore and leave it for these times to fill in, because I think that would just be better content, and I will remember it all at once. I do need to come through and add on all the books that I've brought so far this year. I've started it, but I haven't completed it, so I definitely need to continue that. Into the author section, and I just have to mark off Marissa Meyer books. I also need to add some more squares on here because I'm going to read the graphic novels as well in that world. And that is it. Thank you so much for spending some time with me over this wrap up. I'm really happy with how February came together. I actually ended up putting some of those heart stickers on the stats page off camera. I found them afterwards. I was looking for them and I couldn't find them before filming, so I just went with it. That's why the header is a little bit crooked for stats, because it's not centered. So I filled that in with the hearts. Thank you again for spending some time with me. I will have some new content very, very soon. I'm going to have a lot of content hopefully over March. So stick around and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye everyone.